Hi class, wow, we are already in week 6. This week you'll be learning about how to use your presentation aids. Even though you are recording your speeches, you still need presentation aids for your informative and persuasive speeches. So I'm going to give you some tips. I would also really recommend watching the YouTube video. It's entertaining, it's funny about what not to do with presentation aids. So let's get started. So what types of presentation aids are there? Presentation aids are three-dimensional or two-dimensional visual items, video footage, audio recordings, multimedia segments that support and enhance your research. They can make it easier for the audience to understand your topic, grab interest, retain attention, improve your ethos, help intercultural exchanges, convey emotions, and help with your extemporaneous delivery. So you could use actual items. If you're doing a demonstration speech, for example, for your informative speech, you might want to use actual items. Actual items can be people, animals, objects, and there's advantages to this. They can get your audience attention. Like I said, they can demonstrate for you. They can be very simple. They can help your audience visualize. However, there are some disadvantages. They could be too small, too large, scary or dangerous if you're using live objects, and they can also distract from your message. Models are three-dimensional representations, usually scaled to size. Again, the advantages of these, they are great alternatives when you cannot bring actual items in. They can grab your audience's attention. They can demonstrate, illustrate, exemplify, or emphasize your topic. They can be very simple, and they can visually compare and contrast. Disadvantages, they can be hard to locate. Models can be expensive if you're buying this, for your presentation. They can also be too small for the audience to see, especially if you're doing a video. They can be unpredictable if there are working parts, and they can also distract from your message. Photographs are great, especially if you put photographs within your PowerPoint. They can be effective as an object or model or in the PowerPoint presentation. They can condense material into one aid. They can add emotion if you're using people. They can help compare and contrast, create a sense of authenticity. They can add emotional appeal and can help explain or an abstract concept. However, a few disadvantages of photographs. They can be hard for the entire audience to see if they're very small. If you're using them in your PowerPoint, make sure they are large enough on your PowerPoint that we can see it. They can be a little less effective than the actual item, and if they're stocked photos, they can definitely be overused. Drawings are maps, sketches, diagrams, plans, or other non-photographic representations of places, concepts, people, animals, or objects. The advantages of drawings, they can be helpful when objects or models are not available. They are great for demonstrating how something works, operates, or is constructed. They can be located. They're ready-made. They can show detail, processes, relationships, arrangements, or construction. And they can be used to emphasize location, geography, topography. For example, if you're doing an informative speech on a place, maybe another country, drawings are wonderful for that. Some disadvantages, though, they can be hard to locate or create. They can be hard for the entire audience to see. I've seen students put drawings in their PowerPoint, and the representations are very small. They can have too much detail if not created for your speech, and they can lower your credibility if they're sloppy. Charts and tables are visual summaries of complex or large quantities of information. The types of them include charts, flow charts, organizational charts, and tables. The advantages of these is, well, they can make the complex information understandable. They can provide a summary of a lot of information. They can show relationships, potential cause and effects of relationships. They can help your audience think through hypothetical situations. They can also help your audience understand exact numbers or information quickly. Disadvantages of these, well, they can be less memorable than other visuals or ineffective as an attention grabber. They require the speaker to spend a lot of time explaining them because of the information. They can be overwhelming and confusing if they are too detailed, and they can be hard to see. Graphs are visual representations of numerical statistical data. They demonstrate relationships or differences between two or more variables. So the advantage, line graphs, for example, they can be excellent for simplifying complex statistical information and extremely easy to read. Bar graphs, they are also very good at helping audiences interpret or demonstrate changes over time at a glance. Some disadvantages of line graphs, they can be less effective if you have more than 3 lines. So I would say 3 lines at the most. Disadvantages of bar graphs, well, really, I think bar graphs are great. Just make sure you put them in color. If they're black and white, they'd be hard to understand. Pictographs are also great. Pictographs can make statistical information more interesting. They are pictures that represent something. The disadvantage, these can take a lot of time to locate the appropriate pictures to represent your data. They can be unfamiliar and confusing to your audience. And again, if they're black and white, they can be hard to understand. So definitely use color. Pie graphs are also great. Sections of a circle representing 100%. Make sure if you're borrowing a pie graph, though, the numbers do equal 100%. I've seen pie graphs that the math is wrong and that then you lose your credibility. That being said, pie graphs can help your audience quickly visualize the divisions of your whole item you're discussing. They can effectively graph up to 7 variables at once. Do not do more than 7. It'll be too hard to understand. Like the other ones, they should be in color. Make sure you clearly and visibly label each segment. So now I'm going to talk a little about media. Media can be used to video, audio, or a combination, or even more complex video formats. They can grab attention. They can make your speech memorable by appealing to your audience through sight, sound, and movement. They illustrate a point. They can be linked very easily in PowerPoint or Prezi, and they can increase your ethos. When used properly, though, disadvantages, some of them do require special production skills, special equipment, and more practice to understand how to use media. They might require special equipment, can be time consuming, and can increase potential errors, bad timing, ineffective use, and equipment failure. Multimedia is the combination of multiple presentation aids into one choreographed production. These can be very creative and appeal to almost all senses. They're very professional and definitely increase your ethos. Disadvantages, though, don't make them too flashy. They'll steal from your real message. They can be costly, time-consuming, and require special equipment and production skills. They can be also hard to coordinate. I've seen situations where students have media and they're not timed well with what they're saying. And again, same thing as in the previous slide, bad timing, ineffective use, equipment failure. So how do you determine, I'm going to go quickly through how you determine what presentation aids you use. Well, establish their purpose. The purpose of presentation aids should be to assist, support, and facilitate your message, not detract or outshine it. So first, consider how comfortable you are with these types of aids you are considering. Consider which ones will increase credibility rather than detract from it. Consider whether the aid will help the audience visualize your message. If you want to evoke emotions, consider what type of aid could help with that. Consider what the audience already knows and what you should show them that will help them understand this better and not be too difficult to read or understand. Consider where, why, and when you are speaking. This could significantly influence the type of presentation aid you're using. Other factors to consider, what are you comfortable with? The size of, not this really the size of your audience for this, but the size of your video, the availability of equipment, speech environment, cost, and effectiveness. So then, I'm going to talk about what are the common ways for displaying presentation aids in your speech, especially since you are videotaping your presentation. Chalks boards, whiteboards probably will not work here. They're easy to use, but I'm not really sure how you can have your chalk, whiteboard, and the required PowerPoint into your presentation. Same with posters, handouts. If you're going to use a poster, place it into your PowerPoint so that it will fit into the video. If you're going to have handouts, you're going to have to email them to me, and then I can email and send them to the person that is evaluating your speech. Flip charts, again, not sure if they're going to work very well with your presentation. Talk to me if you think about using them. And advanced technology, they can work very well. It can make you more professional looking, build your ethos, but remember, you're going to be putting this into your PowerPoint presentation. So how do you craft an effective aid? That's what I'll be talking about next. Follow good design principles. Be mindful of your audience and relate the arrangement and placement of various elements, color, text, line, images, space, etc. for optimum effect. So you want to create unity. Need for the elements you use to connect or relate to each other. Color unity, color harmony, and image unity. Create a design format and use it consistently. Make sure that the pattern of your background, font, contents, and symbols are all similar. Have a feeling of stability, symmetry, calmness. Balanced fonts. Have readable font size and effective balance. Use emphasis like a highlighter or design. Emphasize titles, text, emphasizing elements. And finally, create a rhythm, an actual or imagined sense of movement. This is through text placement and movement of images. So give yourself time to be creative. 1 to 2 hours to collect and research your information. An hour to evaluate the audience needs and outline. 2 hours to create the presentation aids. And then 30 minutes to an hour to rehearse with your aids. Always rehearse with your aids. How can you use presentation software? Well, you can create a storyboard. A storyboarding is similar to outlining a speech, and it acts as sketching out the content and arranging the sequence of your aids. So don't be afraid to ask for help and consider maybe even taking a workshop on PowerPoint or Prezi. So you want to think about with the PowerPoint, have a backup, check the order of the slides, learn slideshow commands, rehearse with your speech, and then obviously save and check your equipment before you tape your presentation. With Prezi, the same thing. But with Prezi, know how you're running Prezi. It's a little bit different than PowerPoint. It is used differently when you're using the slideshow than PowerPoint. So make sure you understand how to use it. So then how do you use the presentation aid successfully? Well, obviously, proofread, preview, and practice. Spelling errors will take away from your credibility. Check the equipment. You don't want to have to keep stopping and starting your video. Know when to display the aids. Obviously, you're not going to pass the aids around, but you want to use what's called the touch, turn, and talk method. What I mean by that, do not present to the PowerPoint. Present to your audience. And prepare a backup method just in case something happens. All right, so now that you know how to build your presentation aids, the next thing you want to do, decide if you're going to be using PowerPoint or Prezi, and then look through all of the different materials I put in the week 6 lectures and readings. Then I think you're good to go.